What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Atlus and how they have to understand what is going on with the market here. I think this latest information that we're going to talk about and the comparisons that I'm going to discuss with you guys shows that Atlus is not only underperforming, they're getting kind of blown out by other games that they have no business being outsold by, considering the stature, the quality, and what Atlus brings to the table, and the positive word of mouth that you always see with Atlus games. There's really no excuse at this point when it comes to it. Now, I don't want to diminish or downplay the success of the game that I'm going to talk about here with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim or any of Atlus's other games. I just want to see what's best for the franchises, what's best for the company, what's best for Atlus. And I do think that there are a number of mistakes being made here that can definitely come back to bite them in the butt later down the line. So let's first get into the information here with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This is an action, role-playing, really dramatic type of game. It's actually pretty cool. It launched with pretty much no buzz though. Nobody was really talking about it. It's from the esteemed studio Vanillaware, former Atlus members that went off on their own, did their own thing. Atlus still says, okay, hey, we're gonna publish your games because we like them so much and everything, almost like an Intelligent Systems situation. And they make high quality games. They're very good. But this new information with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim definitely worries me a little bit about Atlus and them maybe not pursuing what they need to do in the future. But I do think that there's hope for it. So let's first talk about the information. So recently, Atlus put out a greeting card and a message for the celebration for New Year's 2021, which Famitsu had with 44 other publishers and developers out there. Now, in the message, Atlus confirms that the highly acclaimed Vanillaware sci-fi adventure game 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim has sold over 300,000 copies worldwide since its release in Japan over a year ago on November 28th, 2019. Now, 2 months after the game was first released, Atlus did celebrate 13 Sentinels achieving 100,000 copies sold, or 100,000 copies shipped, more like it, in Japan on January 28, 2020. The previous sales update for 13 Sentinels was on April 24, 2020, with 30,000 more copies shipped in Japan, with the traditional Chinese and Korean releases of the game on March 19, 2020, and the English release on September 22, 2020. Atlus did report 170,000 additional copies sold to retailers for a current total of over 300,000 copies. So this is interesting. There were people that were saying, oh, that's good for this type of game. There were people that were saying it deserves a lot more. So let's get into that just a bit before we start talking about some of these other things and these comparisons, because unfortunately, while that might be good for some people, and I understand that, considering the quality of the game, we're talking an 85 plus average on Metacritic and OpenCritic. So a really good game, okay? This game's extremely good. It got nominated for like one award at the Game Awards. It was a smaller end game. Obviously, Western people did not play this game. It came out September, so there was just like a lot of other stuff that was kind of going on last year. So I understand not everybody talking about this game. And also, like, Atlus didn't send out review codes to everybody either. I think this game just kind of launched and people had to go out there and pick it up. So a lot of people probably didn't get a chance in the media to play the game. But either way, the game is really good. When it comes to user scores, I don't really take those too seriously, but you know that since this isn't a huge publicized game, there are people that are going on there that are true fans of it and giving their honest opinion on the game. And that has a 9 on Metacritic as well when it comes to user review scores. So people have pretty much said, everybody who's played this game, that it's extremely good. But to see that it only has sold 300,000 copies at this point is a little bit disappointing in my opinion. And because if you look at the comparisons with other games, let's just talk about some other games here, guys. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. That game sold over 500,000 copies in like a month or something like that. It was very quickly. 500,000 copies. Remember, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin is a new IP from an unknown developer, okay? From an unknown developer, there's like 2 people or whatever. They don't have the history and the status of an Atlus or Vanillaware that's been doing this for a long time. Enter the Gungeon, which is, once again, a smaller end game and everything, sold over 1 million copies on the Nintendo Switch alone. Dead Cells on the Nintendo Switch sold well over 500,000 copies, and I think it's more towards 1 million copies on the Switch alone. Stardew Valley sold over 1 million copies on the Switch alone. Hades, a game that just came out, is easily over 300,000 copies sold. We don't know exactly where it is, but based off of the positioning with the sales charts and what it's been going on there, the best-selling games, Hades was #1 for 2020. So I would probably say it's over 500,000 copies sold or near that on the Switch alone when it comes to Hades. Overcooked, another game, over 1 million on the Switch. You look at the Ori titles, those actually made it into the best selling for 2020, the newest Ori game. So you know it sold hundreds of thousands of copies, if not more. So if you're looking at all these different types of games, why am I comparing them to this? Because these are the smaller and more niche titles that not everybody is talking about all the time. They don't get the big AAA type of money pumped into it and all that. It's not a Mario or a Zelda or like any of the other bigger games that are out there, and they have had extreme success. But what is the common theme with all of these games here? It's either a multi-platform release or they decide to put it on the Nintendo Switch. Atlus is going to be in trouble if they don't start understanding where their base is. The PlayStation 4 has an install base of over 100 million units out there. And if you add in the PlayStation 5, obviously it's just added in with backwards compatibility of people who can play PlayStation 4 games. 300,000 copies for this install base is not good for this quality of game. And honestly, I don't want to hear the, oh, they're not very popular or vanillaware, all that. No, none of these games are super popular either or anything like that. They all have the underground marketing tactics of giving to reviewers or anything like that. None of these games, when it comes to any of the titles that I just talked about here, are as popular as Mario or Zelda, but that doesn't mean you can't sell 1 million copies. That doesn't mean you can't sell 500,000 copies plus. That doesn't mean you can't have explosive sales because you have a niche or smaller end type of game. They are underperforming because they do not understand where their base is. People on PlayStation 4 have mitigated to other things at this point. You can still release the game on PlayStation 4. You can still have it on PlayStation. If you feel that there's fans there, obviously there is fans there. There's 300,000 copies sold on PS4 alone, and that's okay, but they're leaving so many sales off the table when a Sakuna of Rice and Ruin can come in and sell 500,000 copies with more of 2-to-1 on the Nintendo Switch and blow away 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim in about a couple months or however long when they reported those sales. That to me is the biggest oof that's out there right now. I get it. You can compare and say, well, it's not going to be as popular as bigger games, but there's no reason why it can't be as popular as Enter the Gungeon on the Switch or Sakuna of Rice and Ruin or Dead Cells or some of these other games, because this game, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, got as much people talking about it and buzz in terms of how good it was in the review scores as any of these other games on this list. So it's very unfortunate that Atlus is still somewhat slow to catch up on this. Now, here's the thing, guys. I do feel that this might change in 2021 and going forward. I think that Atlus is seeing the results of some of the games. They're seeing the results of what's going on with the PS5 and how that's starting off very slow in Japan. They're seeing what's going on with the PS4 sales have pretty much slowed to an absolute crawl. They're seeing with clarity and facts that the Nintendo Switch is just doing so well in Japan, and people are buying the smaller end games, people are buying the bigger games. The explosive sales of the system and the software are going very well. So I think Atlus is definitely starting to pivot. I talked about this recently on my live stream, but I stated that I didn't feel that Persona 5 Strikers was going to be a Nintendo Switch game at all. I think Atlus saw what was going on. They had a developer who has Switch engines and can do stuff and said, hey, can you do the Switch version as well? Because we see what's going on with the sales, and it paid off for them because there were a good amount of sales in Japan. They're very happy with that, and there's going to be even more sales when the game comes over to Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC here in the West next month, February. So I think that they're starting to pivot just a bit, but they're going to have to. If Atlus wants to survive this upcoming generation, this next 10 years or so, they're gonna have to stop doing what they've done before. This singular, we're gonna only go with one base and try to put our game out on there. I'm not sure if it's working, if they're not getting paid, because Sony didn't pay them for Aegis Rim. Nintendo's probably not gonna pay them much or really anything. I think it's probably just marketing and just showing off the game. When it comes to Shin Megami Tensei 5, when it comes to Persona 5 Royal, Persona 5, the next Persona, what are these type of exclusivity, type of fake exclusivity deals where there is no actual deal, but they're just doing it because they want to focus on one. It's not working. Sega is not making as much as they should be making, and you're getting blown out by indie games made by 1 or 2 people or something like that when it comes to sales at right around the same price. Heck, a lot of people who bought 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim bought it for $29.99 on Black Friday. That's when I started seeing a lot of people here in the West buy it. Day one or launch day, nobody was really streaming the game. The game wasn't flying off of store shelves or going to the top of the sales charts when it comes to PSN or anything. So it's not like people were rushing out there and buying the game. It wasn't until it was discounted until that was the case. So these type of games, like Vanillaware type of titles, Atlus type of games, these are perfect for the Nintendo Switch. They're perfect for a multi-platform release. They're gonna have to do a better job, especially in this generation here with the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. They're gonna have to do a much better job at one, marketing their game and getting it out there when it comes to content creators and stuff like that, which they're doing with Persona 5 Strikers. They're already reaching out to me and other people that I do know, so that's very good because I think the game's gonna do extremely well. But it's Persona, they always do that with Persona, but I feel like they're gonna have to do an even better job with some of their other games because this is way too much money being left on the table for a company like Sega that was saying like, hey, we kind of underperformed when it comes to things and we're going to do more multi-platform development, which Sega did talk about there. But like, hopefully it's not too little too late. And I honestly don't think it will be, but something definitely needs to change here because Atlus and Sega, they're going to be in trouble if they don't get it together, in my opinion. They're going to be in trouble with some of these games because these games are getting too niche to only keep it on a base of players who kind of stop playing those type of games when you're getting blown up by Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, you know, and Enter the Gungeon and games like this. You're getting destroyed when it comes to sales from these type of games. There's obviously a shift who's trying to play where and what, and I think that Atlus, Vanillaware, they need to understand this, and they need to understand it as soon as possible, ASAP on this one. But what are you guys' thoughts when it comes to it? What do you guys think about the sales here of 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim compared to some of the other games that I talked about? And do you feel that we're going to see maybe a port of this game at some point? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.